SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
If you're feeling anxious about your investments with all the economic volatility and chaos in Washington, tune in to SuperTalk Jackson on Wednesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. and Sundays from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. for Element Wealth Radio with Jeremy Nelson. Learn more at myelementwealth.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby. I have lots of fun.
Good morning. Welcome. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, the start of a new week, February 9th, 2026. Glad to be with you, and congratulations. Now, this particular morning may be difficult for a lot of you, because for a lot of folks, today is the day that you have to get back into a routine, and it's been a while. After a couple of weeks of out of school following the winter storm, but parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, you got kids, you've made it through this, and it will be ultimately nice to get back into a routine and feel like, oh, yeah, middle of January, beginning of February, it's the time when we're supposed to be in school. So, teachers, congratulations on getting back. Good luck on the first day, and for everybody else, all right, let's roll. Let's make this thing work like it's supposed to for a little while. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning. Yeah, we have some nice temps out there.
Oh, what are you talking
day.
about?
It's been amazing last few days. I ran into somebody from Kossuth, Mississippi yesterday here in the central Mississippi area, and I said, man, you're a long way from home. Has everything kind of recovered? He goes, buddy, we just got our power and water back on yesterday, so that must have been on Saturday, and he was headed back. So he'd been down here for 10 days. So I think things are starting to kind of get back to normal. He was in good spirits, as so many people that I have encountered that have had to endure what they've endured. The spirit of Mississippi is alive and well, buddy. Let me tell you.
It absolutely is, but those who find themselves 2 weeks later still without power have patience that is wearing thin.
It is, yes, sir.
It is wearing thin. They are ready for the heat to run, and who knows, maybe even the air conditioner to run a little bit this week. Corinth, it's going to be sunny for you with a high of 73 today. Little breeze out of the southwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cleveland, hello, Mississippi Delta. How about sunshine and very warm, at least very warm for the 9th of February, 74 degrees. Light breeze, 5 to 10 Meridian. You're knocking on 76 door, which really means you're knocking on the door of 80 with a southwest wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Hattiesburg, going to be a little cloudy this morning. Those clouds will give way to sunshine this afternoon. Expect mist and maybe even some reduced visibility on your way to work this morning. 78 degrees for your high today in Hattiesburg. Lance, you remember your playing days when you were playing college baseball and you had gone through the cold camp and maybe you got in a break or day or two, and then right around the start of the season, you knew there was more cold that was going to come, but you caught that stretch of 3 or 4 days in the mid-70s, and it felt like it is baseball time, didn't it?
Oh, man. I mean, it always seemed that it was beautiful and perfect for, like, opening weekend, and then you'd get slapped in the face a couple of 3 weeks later with this late winter. But, yeah, I mean, I always loved opening day. That's one of my favorite things on the whole planet was college baseball opening day. I can't say that I never played pro ball like that, so I can say that my experience was I loved it. Absolutely. The jitters, the butterflies, the anxiety, everything you'd worked for, and then you get that first pitch, and everything changes at that moment. It's hard to explain it, but, it's like this burden falls off your back, and you go, oh, okay, now it's time to play ball.
Yeah. Now it's time to play ball. 4 days away from opening day across the state of Mississippi in Hattiesburg. The Golden Eagles baseball team will begin at home on Friday at 4 o'clock against UC Santa Barbara. Ole Miss will begin its season at home on Friday, 4 o'clock first pitch. And how about the debut of the Brian O'Connor era at Mississippi State? You think there's going to be some buzz at Dudy Noble for that ball game? Mississippi State getting the season started this weekend as well. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to the weekend and the start of a new season. But it is almost here, and hopefully the weather's going to cooperate. It doesn't look quite as good at the end of the week as it does at the beginning of the week, but we'll see. By the way, opening the season for Ole Miss, they're taking on the Nevada Wolfpack, and Mississippi State's got Hofstra rolling in to start the year. Today, 9th of February, Carole King was born on this day. The American Grammy-winning songwriter, piano player, and singer, including You've Got a Friend and So Far Away and You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. Carole King, born in Manhattan, New York, 84 years old today. Is that right? Yeah, 84. Math checks out. 1 year later, Carole King, just a giant of a musician. Joe Pesci, the literal opposite of that as a man.
Funny guy.
Now,
funny guy.
He was a giant of an actor. Goodfellas.
Funny how? Right here to amuse you.
Born in 1943 in Newark. Starred alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins. You remember that?
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, me.
Kelly Preston was in that, too, I think.
What's your favorite Joe Pesci role?
Oh, Goodfellas. I mean, that's just the funny
That's the
scene
one.
is one of my favorites. But, I mean, his acting in that, he's got so many great roles, but I love that one. Goodfellas. And same with, all of them in that. It was just a great trio there, a little threesome. And I love the lines, the one-liners. It was just really a great movie, I thought.
Yeah. One of the more serious roles, played alongside Robert De Niro and Sharon Stone. He was Nicky in Casino. That was a good
handful, too, yeah.
Ooh, that was a good one. It was one of former Governor Haley Barber's favorite movies, Casino.
Casino. I love
Michael B. Jordan was born on this day in 1987. The actor played in Black Panther and Sinners and Creed. I Am Legend. He was born in Santa Ana, California. That's Michael B. Jordan, not Michael Air Jordan. Rose Leslie was born on this day. She's 39 years old, born in 1987. I have not watched, at least in not any significant amount of time, either of these series. But I know a lot of people have. A lot of people that listen have watched these and recognize Rose Leslie, the Scottish actress from Downton Abbey and also Game of Thrones. She was born in Aberdeen, Scotland. You a Downton Abbey guy or a Game of Thrones guy?
Definitely.
Either one?
I love the Royals. Those are my favorite shows to watch. Anything with royalty in it, I'm in. But no, I actually like Game of Thrones, okay? I'm not one of those that poured over every episode, but yeah, it was very entertaining.
Sure.
And then you got the House of the Dragon or something that's come after that. And I kind of lost interest a little bit.
Da-ba-da-ba-da.
Yeah.
Jason Starkville says I could just confuse Joe Pesci and Danny DeVito. It was Danny DeVito in Twins. That's right.
No, it was DeVito.
My apologies.
That's easy to make the mistake, though.
Yeah, my bad.
He had a great ponytail in Twins.
Yes,
the balding ponytail is always cool,
I can't believe I messed that up. But I sure did. 1825, the House of Representatives elected John Quincy Adams as the 6th President of the United States. In 1870, this day, President Ulysses S. Grant signed a law resulting in the United States Army Signal Service's establishment of its Division of Telegrams and Reports for the benefit of commerce. Do you know what that initially became, or eventually became? It became the National Weather Service.
I think that's a better name.
Yes. I mean, even if we'd gone acronym, we would have been... let's check in with our friends from the DTRBC. Huh? The National Weather Service. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Today in 1943, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed an executive order setting a minimum 48-hour work week in a number of critical war industries. We'll take a time out. Some of what is happening on this day in U.S. history. We've got news headlines for you next on Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Lonely feeling deep inside. Find a corner where I can hide. Silent footsteps crowding me.
Thank you, Jason in Starkville. He said that was Danny DeVito and Twins spreading that fake news. Lance told him fake news is so 2024. Jason said we were starting to sound like CNN this morning. Thanks, Jason. I felt like it was a public service for me to provide you with something out of the gate that would accomplish two things. One, it would give you the mental superiority to be able to correct me just right out of the gate. And two, it would say something really stupid to grab your attention and snap you out of that early morning fog. Get those receptors firing. And if you believe either of those things, we have much to discuss. Much to discuss, much of it financial. 1964 was the first appearance of the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. Live from New York, the broadcast drew in nearly 74 million viewers. 1985, Madonna rolled out her album Like a Virgin, went to number one. This for the beginning of 3 straight weeks. Do you remember Riverdance?
That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. The Irish music and dance show opened in Dublin on this day in 1995 with its lead dancer, Michael Flatley. Didn't they have a stretch where they had to kind of jazz it up a little bit and they were like tap dancing with 55-gallon drums on their legs or on top of 55-gallon drums or something like that?
I remember that was like right in the sweet spot of my high school. So I remember that because it was all over everything for a while.
Yeah.
And then it was gone. But yeah, that was a big deal. I didn't really know what was going on there. It looked like kind of a, Appalachia meets, Ireland.
Yeah.
Really cool though.
It was. I feel like PBS ran a bunch of specials. Maybe after they were past, they may have been past their time a little bit, and yet PBS was still promoting it and hey, watch specials like Riverdance for just a donation of $13 a month. You can be an insider, and I don't know. It was today in 1997 that the Fox cartoon series The Simpsons aired its 167th episode. The significance, That made it the longest-running animated series in cartoon history. And then The Simpsons became Forrest Gump. It has just kept running. They were just getting started at 167 episodes. Fox, by the way, has commissioned 4 more seasons, meaning that when they get to season 40 in 2028, The Simpsons will be the same age as Homer in the show.
Wow.
Currently, The Simpsons is in season 37 with over 800 episodes.
And there's so many of them, too, that like predict the future. If you go back, same with some of the other long-time running ones like American Dad and Family Guy, but The Simpsons, there's actually studies done on how many times they've been right in predicting the future way, way in advance.
Yeah.
With certain skits and things they play. So it's pretty interesting if you're into that kind of stuff.
Finally, Super Bowl 59 was played on this day just a year ago. Played in the Superdome, New Orleans. It was the Eagles claiming the second title in franchise history, a 40-22 win over two-time defending champion Kansas City. Jalen Hurts was the MVP. Fast forward a year, and the Eagles don't make the playoffs, and the Chiefs don't make the playoffs. Crazy time. Or maybe the Eagles did make the playoffs and they lost. I don't remember. Anyway, let's get to some news headlines for you. Try to keep you up with everything that happened on Friday and over the weekend. Mississippi has more financial help on the way in the wake of Winter Storm Fern. On Friday afternoon, Governor Tate Reeves announced that the Trump administration had approved his major disaster declaration request for all counties with verified damage as a result of the historic ice storm that hit 2 weekends ago. According to President Trump, $39.1 million is being sent to the Mississippi to aid in its ongoing response to the weather event. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump wrote, "I just spoke to the great governor of Mississippi, Tate Reeves, and told him I am approving $39.1 million for the severe winter storm that they just experienced. I love the people of Mississippi, and won big there 3 times. We are with you all the way." That not the first round of federal funding. You remember nearly $4 million in rapid emergency funding was approved before the storm came in. Secretary of State Kristi Noem talked to us about that last week. And then in the state legislature, the Mississippi Senate last week unanimously passed a bill that allocated $20 million to MEMA for storm relief efforts. The House has not yet taken action on that and may reject the proposal put forth by the Senate, saying that money should go directly to the counties and the cities, not to MEMA for distribution. As of Friday afternoon, 29 deaths attributed to Winter Storm Fern in Mississippi. Jackson Mayor John Horn has made a decision about who he wants the city's next top cop to be. Now it will be up to the city council to approve her. Horn announced on Friday he's appointing Dr. Rashawn Brackney, the next police chief, following a national search that included community input, screening, multiple rounds of interviews. Of course, he's looking to fill the role of retired former Chief Joseph Wade. That happened last August. Hinds County Sheriff Tyree Jones has been pulling double duty in the interim. Brackney brings more than 3 decades of law enforcement leadership, academic work, and public safety experience. She retired from the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police in Pennsylvania after more than 30 years of experience. During her time in Pittsburgh, she became the first African-American woman in the country to oversee a special operations division that included SWAT, mounted patrol, accident investigation, hostage negotiations, river rescue, traffic, and the bomb squad. She also has been the chief of police at George Washington University and in the city of Charlottesville. So, look forward to learning more about Dr. Rachel Brackney, soon to be Chief Rachel Brackney in Jackson. You may have seen this toward the end of the week. The federal government has reversed course and will not convert a North Mississippi warehouse into a holding center for undocumented immigrants. Senator Roger Wicker said that following talks with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, federal officials have agreed to look elsewhere for an ICE detention center. The update follows a letter from the Republican lawmaker from Mississippi, penned to Noem, expressing his staunch opposition to ICE occupying a facility in Byhalia. His voice gave letter to reservations about ICE using the Mississippi site, stemming from concerns about economic development impact that the agency's presence could cause, his constituents' lack of support, and the local community's lack of manpower and resources to operate the holding center. So, no ICE facility coming to Byhalia and Marshall County. I'm sure that pleases the residents there.
Yeah, nobody really wants a prison in their backyard, you know.
No. I do wonder about laying out the reasons when you say this could hurt economic development, which is a sign that you're trying to bring in economic development projects, and Marshall County's already landed a couple, and then turning around saying you don't have the manpower to run the prison facility. Maybe it's just a nice way of saying we don't want it. Anyway. Because isn't manpower one of the things you have to sell when you've got an economic development project coming in? Anyway, not disagreeing with the senator. Interesting parallel there. C-Spire text line open to you, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Check out the latest from C-Spire online at cspire.com. C-Spire, customer inspired. We're back with you. A couple more news headlines and your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort right after this.
From the Seabrook 3 on SuperTalk, Mississippi. What's happening? Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us. Mississippi College has announced revised plans for the kickoff of its bicentennial celebration after the state's oldest university was forced to reschedule events due to the recent ice storm. University officials said in a news release that the rescheduled Founders Week celebration will take place this Thursday, February 12th. Events originally set for the third week of January before Fern came and rained on the parade. The updated lineup, all the events taking place on the Clinton campus, includes a 200th birthday party, a preview of a bicentennial time capsule, and the official ribbon cutting for 1826, the exhibition. That's an interactive exhibit that will celebrate Mississippi College's 200-year history. So be sure to check that out later this week. Brad Arnold, the founding member of Mississippi-based Three Doors Down, passed away after a battle with cancer. Three Doors Down announced the rock star's death on Saturday, saying he passed away peacefully with his beloved wife Jennifer and his family by his side. Arnold, a native of Escatawpa, died at 47 years old after receiving a clear cell renal cell carcinoma diagnosis last year. Three Doors Down, best known for hit songs Kryptonite, Here Without You, and When I'm Gone. Formed back in 1996 right here in the Magnolia State, with Arnold serving as the lead singer. The group has won multiple Billboard Awards over the course of its nearly 30 years on the music scene. Band members say Arnold's legacy will live far beyond his performances. Spokesman for the band, the official statement for the band said, as a founding member, vocalist, and original drummer of Three Doors Down, Brad helped redefine mainstream rock music, blending a post-grunge accessibility with emotionally direct songwriting and lyrical themes that resonated with everyday listeners. His music reverberated far beyond the stage, creating moments of connection, joy, faith, and shared experiences that will live long after the stages he performed on. Brad Arnold wrote Kryptonite when he was 15 years old in math class. Also known for openly discussing his Christian faith with his audiences, praised as a devoted husband and friend, leaned on that faith in those loved ones during a trying fight with the stage 4 kidney disease. Offer our most sincere condolences to Brad's immediate and extended family, his friends, and all of his fans out there. An untimely passing for a very, very talented man. It is time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Pearl River Resort. Oh, man. Spring just around the corner. That means azaleas just around the corner for blooming. That means the azalea course at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club will be it'll be dressed in its resplendent best in the coming weeks. I mean, it is full-on golf season starting just in the next little bit. Be sure to book your tee time at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Not one, but two 18-hole championship courses, the Oaks and the Azaleas, courses that you can play. You're going to love them. They'll take good care of you at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Book your tee time online at dancingrabbitgolf.com. Dancing Rabbit, part of Pearl River Resort. Last night in the home stadium of their divisional rival San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks smothered the New England Patriots 29-13 to claim their second Super Bowl title in franchise history. Seattle's dominant defensive front was a bad matchup for Drake May and a Patriots offense that had been struggling coming into the Super Bowl. 8 of the Patriots' first 9 possessions ended in a punt, the other a kneel down as they went to halftime. At the end of the third quarter, the Patriots had 78 yards of total offense and as many first downs, 5, as the Seahawks had sacks. For the entire postseason, the unlikely Super Bowl champions trailed in the playoffs for just 1 minute and 35 seconds. That's the fourth best in NFL history. The 91 Redskins, the 77 Cowboys, the 73 Dolphins, and the 71 Cowboys, 4 teams that never trailed in the postseason. Then there was these 2025 Seahawks at 1 minute and 35 seconds in which they were behind. Kenneth Walker finished with 135 yards on 27 carries, also caught 26 yards receiving, and became the first running back to win MVP of the Super Bowl since Terrell Davis with Denver back in 1997. 135 rushing yards, also the most by a running back since that performance that Davis put up. So the Seattle Seahawks are the Super Bowl champions. Bring it back a little closer to home. You had basketball over the weekend. In one of the early games, Mississippi State hosted Arkansas. For the Razorbacks, Darius Acuff scored 24. Trayvon Brazile had 19, and the Hogs rolled to an 88-68 victory over Mississippi State. They shot 52% from the field, made 8 threes, and secured their largest margin of victory against an SEC team on the road this year. Josh Hubbard led Mississippi State with 16 points, but he failed to make a three-pointer, snapping an impressive skid of at least one three-point basket made in 69 consecutive games. That was an SEC record. Hubbard finished 7 of 15 from the field, but 0 of 4 from behind the arc. Achor had 15 points and 8 rebounds for Mississippi State. It feels hard to do what Ole Miss did on Saturday. They erased an 18-point first-half deficit, gave up a 16-0 run in the first half, had a lead with 2 minutes and 43 seconds to play, and somehow lost by 11, giving up a 14-0 run to close the game. Modest Vocatitis scored 27 for Texas, who scored the last 14 points of the game for a 79-68 win. Ole Miss led 68-65 with 2:43 left when Jordan Pope hit a three from the corner and was fouled. He made the free throw, making it 69-68. Dalen Swain's three-point play made it 72-68. Simeon Wilcher hit a three with 41 seconds left, and then Ole Miss went to fouling. Eduardo Klafke led the way for the Rebels, 16 points. Ole Miss falls to 11-12 overall, 3-7 in the SEC. Other scores from the SEC, a surprise in Nashville. Oklahoma had lost 9 straight in the SEC. They go to Memorial Gymnasium and beat the Vanderbilt Commodores, ranked 15th in the country, 92-91. Florida right now is a machine. They beat Texas A&M in College Station by 21. Kentucky by 3 at home over Tennessee, 74-71. Missouri beat South Carolina on the road. Alabama, a 96-92 winner in a rivalry game over Auburn. And Georgia, 83-71 over LSU. And finally, to wrap up your sports update this morning, following the departure of Todd Cooley, the winningest coach in Delta State history, the Statesmen are trying to maintain the momentum of that football program by bringing in David Dean as the new head coach. The university announced that on Friday afternoon. He's widely considered one of the best coaches in Division II history. More than 35 years of coaching experience, including 2 decades as a head coach. Most recently, the head coach of West Georgia. He coached there from 2017 through 2023. 48-20 with, let's see here, 3 playoff appearances in his 6 years. But David Dean is most known for his time at Valdosta State, where he was the head coach from 2007 until 2015. 6 Division II playoff appearances with national championships in 2007 and 2012. At Valdosta State as a head coach, he went 79-27. Across his time at West Georgia and Valdosta State, Dean has had 12 players go on to sign NFL contracts. So Delta State got their man, David Dean, the new head football coach in Cleveland. Quick time out for you. We've got a Mississippi Lottery update. Then we'll roll into the 7 o'clock hour. Senator Brice Wiggins coming your way this morning at 7:30, and a busy weekend for JT Mitchell and the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. I'll tell you about that coming up later. We're back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mississippi Lottery Update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. That's mslottery.com. No jackpot winner in Lotto America. No jackpot winner for Powerball. Tonight's drawing up to $113 million with an estimated cash value of almost $52 million. The Mega Millions jackpot continues to grow as well. No jackpot winner on Friday night, so Tuesday night, tomorrow night's drawing, up to $366 million with a cash value of almost $166 million. Last week, the Lottery Claims Office paid out $547,000 in change, while retailers paid out a little over $5 million, almost $4 million to be exact. So a good week playing the lottery for people all over Mississippi. Had winners all across the state. A Meridian woman on a $10 50X the money winner scratch-off won $10,000 on a ticket that she got at King City in Meridian. Brandon Mann won $5,000 on a ticket from Flying J and Pearl. An Oklahoma man won $5,000 on a ticket that he bought at Walmart in Pascagoula, and a Tupelo woman $10,000 on a $30 Millionaire Maker scratch-off on a ticket from Sprint Mart in Tupelo. That's your Mississippi Lottery Update. MSLottery.com. MSLottery.com. Thomas on the C Spire text line says, "Morning, gentlemen." To you as well, Thomas. Glad to hear from you. This one, hate to hear that about Brad Arnold. He was a pretty down-to-earth guy, from what I could gather. Seemingly so. And an incredibly talented musician. About Chris Beard said, really looks to be having so much fun this season. I think that was said tongue-in-cheek. And then he says, come to think of it, he really doesn't even look like he's having fun when he's winning, so never mind. Pretty serious on-court demeanor for Chris Beard. He's all basketball. And it's got to be a wildly frustrating year. I mean, with the exception of their loss to NC State back in December, maybe even November, I think it was early December, Ole Miss has been in every single game they've played. Every one of them. Chance to win. Have not won many of them, though. So, they will keep on plugging. Hey, did you see that Keir Starmer, that smarmy leader in London, in the UK, his own party may be coming after him, Lance, trying to kick him out?
It doesn't surprise me. Goodness. Somebody woke up finally, huh?
So, when Starmer got elected, he appointed Peter Mandelson as his chief of staff, despite the fact that Mandelson had known ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently, Mandelson lied to Starmer about the depth of those ties, and a most recent round of emails coming out has shown that the ties were extensive. And Mandelson was fired back in the fall. But yesterday, a top official in Starmer's administration said that they had advised him to hire Mandelson as chief of staff and resigned as a result. Chief of Staff Morgan McSweeney took the fall for the decision by quitting on Sunday, saying, I advised the Prime Minister to make that appointment, and I take full responsibility for that advice. As well you should. Somebody's got to take responsibility from it, because we know Keir Starmer's not going to take responsibility. but now there's nobody really to fight for Starmer, and he is fighting against his own party, visiting with them tonight in private, trying to keep them from kicking him out of office, telling staff this morning that the Mandelson scandal had hammered the public's respect for politicians and, quote, "We must prove that politics can be a force for good." Parenthetically, and that is why you should leave me in office. Okay. Good luck with that. Keir Starmer's a guy you really, really feel bad for because he seems so incredibly genuine. Doesn't he?
Yeah, I think all the Muslims that have invaded the country love him. So,
yeah. 6 o'clock hour in the books. Glad to be with you to start the new week. We got a news update coming up for you, and then we will roll into some of the big stories from last week and moving into this week on Mornings with Richard Cross, right here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good morning, welcome, and thanks for being with us. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Said it at the beginning of the show, we'll say it again now. Congratulations to those of you who are getting back into some sort of a routine. Kids headed out the door for school, maybe you headed out the door for work. Hopefully if you had storm damage, you've been able to get most of that cleaned up, probably still waiting on a crew to come by and pick it up at the street, though they are making progress, and that is an incredible operation to watch. Lance, did I describe those trucks for you last week?
oh yeah,
Man, they get these big double trailers, probably, I mean, it's like a pair of 18-wheelers with higher sides than you would normally see on an 18-wheeler trailer, and they've got the excavator arm mounted on a rotating seat in between the two trailers. Fill one up, fill the other one up. Then they pull these bad boys, they're heading north out on Highway 7 toward Abbeville. And then there's this big open field where they are unloading. They use the mounted arm with a bucket on it, excavator arm, to unload the truck. There's then a big skid steer excavator, big one, that is moving the piles of debris into what can only be described as an industrial strength chipper shredder, but I don't know that that's even the right way to describe it. And it's shooting the wood chips out, and then there's a few front end loaders. They're coming and scooping it up and just spreading it evenly across a field, making row after row after row, and I guess once they fill it up, they'll go start all over again. Incredible operation. Expected to take 30, 45 days in the city limits of Oxford. And all of North Mississippi is going to have to go through much of the same thing. Although the extent of it probably varies a bit from place to place. MRC is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. So, Lance, you sent me this screenshot. If you followed what's going on in New York City, they have a trash problem. Big snowstorm a couple of weeks ago blanketed Manhattan and all 5 of the boroughs and much of the Northeast. It appears as if they got snowplows out, although the snowplows seem to just pile snow up on the side of the streets that was so high that the cars that were parked along the streets couldn't get out and might not be able to for a while without digging themselves out. And apparently there was no trash service. You could see building after building after building with stacks on, bags on top of bags piled up. And somebody on X posted, I've spoken to my local sanitation workers that finally came by on Friday to pick up the trash and recycling on my street, and they explicitly said that they are told when to go out and collect the garbage, and they blamed the mayor and his office for the lack of trash pickup. They said they were not given the order to go pick up the trash recycling for 2 weeks. They blamed the incompetence from the top. Pardon the pun, but that just reeks of an excuse, because what do you mean they're told when to go pick up the trash? There's a schedule on which trash pickup happens. Now, Lance, I think your position is that perhaps they were told not to go pick up the trash until, or is that too black helicopter for you to say on the radio?
Oh, no, it's not too black helicopter. It's obviously a city of that size and those resources been picking up garbage for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't just happen by chance. It's no coincidence.
There are some entities that allegedly have run waste removal businesses that have been highly profitable for long periods of time. Is it possible that in his redistribution of wealth that Mamdani did not make sure that everybody was on the same page with regard to who should be picking up the trash and what compensation they should be receiving for it?
That's a great way of looking at it there. Very politically correct.
Let me make you an offer you can't refuse, Mr. Mayor.
Somebody did not get their bag of money.
The 7 o'clock hour of MRC is presented by MWG. That's MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Call them today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. And don't forget, the C Spire text line is open to you. 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Bo in Indianola. Richard, why not sell those chips they're shredding instead of spreading them out? Seems like they could make a lot of money off chipped up wood chips for lawn and garden. They're like $20 a bag at Walmart. I think that would take time that they don't have. Clamshell grapple on the trucks. Grind it up and measure volume for cost. That says Rod, what Rod in the Delta says. Okay. A clamshell grapple. I was calling it an excavator arm. Clamshell grapple is a much better description. Thank you all. I appreciate that. That does make more sense. But it looks like the arm and bucket that you have on a mini excavator or a big excavator. Somebody says, why not, or Thomas says, why not burn the limbs? Man, that'd put up a cloud of smoke that we'd see for 6 months. I'm sure it's not environmentally friendly. I don't know if it's as efficient either. Anyway. All right. Super Bowl last night, bad game, bad commercials, Bad Bunny. The AP wrote this about Bad Bunny. The sun hung low when Bad Bunny emerged in Puerto Rico's sugarcane fields during his halftime show, surrounded by jabaros and pavas. Translated, that's rural farmers in traditional straw hats. Viejitos playing dominoes, an affectionate term for older men, and a piragua stand, shaved ice. Undeniable symbols of Puerto Rico. From a small Caribbean island with a complicated colonial history to the world, the artist born Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio brought Puerto Rican culture to Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara last night for his 2026 Super Bowl halftime show and what was said to always going to have been a landmark moment for Latinos. He started his huge reggaeton and then some hits, as it is described, with Titi Mi Pregunto, followed it up by Yo Perrero Sola, and then was joined on stage by Cardi B, Jessica Alba, Pedro Pascal, Karol G, Young Miko, Ronald Acuna Jr., Alex Earl, and Dave Grutman. Guest at his Party Dar Masquina, his house party.
Yeah, man, I put my Google Translate up to the screen and to see what it would come up with, and it kept saying "Más despacio, por favor." It came back, so.
Bad Bunny performed entirely in Spanish with the exception of an appearance by Lady Gaga in which she sang in English. He did speak English at the end, and everybody said, "Look, see, it's all good." He said, "God bless America." We were later told that he immediately named the countries in the Americas: Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, and so on, including the United States and Canada. A reminder that while it is common to use America as a synonym for the U.S., in the U.S. it is the name used across 2 continents. So if you were hanging on to Bad Bunny was pro-American because he said, "God bless America," maybe he had a little something else there. Budweiser arguably had the best commercial of the night. Pretty amazing to see the turn that company, Anheuser-Busch, has made from a marketing standpoint over just a couple of years. What was that cat's name that they turned to a couple of years ago?
Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney. Turned out not to be a great seller of beer. People just want a bald eagle flying on the back of a Clydesdale. And that's what you got last night. 150th anniversary for Anheuser-Busch, 250th birthday for the United States of America.
From the Venable Glass Traffic
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Let me run with you tonight. I'll take you on a moonlight ride. There's someone I used to see, but she don't get.
So you had Bad Bunny at halftime as one option. There was another option last night. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for your messages on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. There was an alternate halftime show. TP USA, the organization that was created by the late Charlie Kirk, hosted an alternate halftime show featuring headliner Kid Rock along with Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett. Gabby Barrett, in particular, received high marks for her performance. Andrew Colvett, who is largely running TP USA now alongside Erica Kirk, went on Fox last night with Brian Kilmeade and was downright giddy over the numbers that the TP USA did on the halftime show. The original plan was that it would be on the TP USA channel on YouTube, the Charlie Kirk channel on YouTube, Rumble, some other streaming partners, but also that it would be available to stream through X. Apparently just a couple of hours before the halftime show began, they found out that there were some licensing agreements that would not allow them to stream on X. Makes you wonder how big the numbers would have been. Across all of the channels that were streaming on YouTube and Rumble, TPUSA's All-American Halftime Show estimated better than 10 million concurrent viewers, meaning at one point there were over 10 million people watching at the same time. And when you factor in all of the social media platforms where it was either aired in live or after the fact, watched after the fact, over 25 million viewers. Now, perspective on that is that the Super Bowl last year drew 127 million viewers based on the way the game went and what seemed like kind of a lack of interest this year, relatively speaking. I would guess that the overall Super Bowl viewership number is actually a little lower, but I don't know that. We'll have to wait for a day or two to find out what those were. But the Super Bowl halftime show is the single most valuable advertising space in all of media. A 30-second spot during the Super Bowl last night that was aired on NBC cost $10 million. So all of those AI companies that seem to have plenty of cash and put commercials out that people hated, they were dropping $10 million for a 30-second spot, and there was a required additional $10 million spend across all of NBC's platforms. So the get-in-the-door price for a 30-second spot in the Super Bowl was $20 million last night with NBC. It is generally thought that shoulder spots, so immediately before or immediately after halftime, are more than the $10 million price tag. And so there are some ad executives that may be looking at the numbers and say the audience dropped by what percent during halftime? Will it be a shift in the way people view advertising in the Super Bowl? Don't know. There are a lot of people that are claiming that might be the case, but I guess we'll have to wait and see moving forward. Some of the local ads were pretty good. I think Will East texted me last night and said that Richard Swartz advertisement was the best one that he had seen. That was a local ad that aired in the Jackson market during the Super Bowl last night. Our good friend Caleb Hamill says there was a really good one on the coast as well. Hologram Maloney Lions Super Bowl commercial featuring David Maloney. I'll have to watch that during the break as well. Thanks, Caleb. Appreciate that. I don't know if it was because I've spent a good part of the last 2 weeks with a chainsaw in my hand and dragging leaves and have been outside and haven't been watching a lot of the lead up. I felt myself yesterday morning having to pause and go, wait, who's playing tonight? Oh, yeah, the Seahawks and the Patriots. We had a great time. We had a Super Bowl party and ate well, and kids had a lot of fun and ran around. Didn't really feel like anybody was paying much attention to the game because the game was boring. A lot of field goals. If you're a Seahawks fan, you're thrilled this morning. If you're a Patriots fan, I guess you're crushed this morning. Did it feel that way to you, Lance? Like there was just no buzz surrounding the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, it wasn't two teams that, you had in the middle of the country. It was far east, far west. It seemed like, it was just a very, I don't know. I'm like you. I mean, I knew who was playing in it, but I didn't know a whole lot about Seattle. I knew they had a great defense, and I knew the Patriots had kind of resurged and had a good offense pretty much. But not a lot of buzz. And then when you watch the game, it was a snoozer, at least until a little bit into the almost late third quarter. Seemed like the Patriots woke up a little bit, but man, that was
a little.
Yeah, just a little. But, I couldn't imagine the ratings were extremely high on that because it was just from the very get-go a very defensive-minded game, which I kind of like watching. It's fun to watch a defense as well. I mean, play as well as, say, Seattle's did, and at the point where the Patriots are holding them to just field goals. But Yeah, it is fun to watch that at times, but man, it couldn't have been good for ratings.
Do you remember the voter ID story that we talked about last Thursday? It was the CNN clip where Pew Research had done polling and found that 86% of white Americans wanted voter ID to be put in place. Not surprising. 81% of Latino voters in the United States wanted voter ID to be put in place. And perhaps the number that shocked a lot of people, 76%, better than 3 out of 4, black voting Americans wanted voter ID to be put in place. In an interview with BET, former Vice President Kamala Harris was asked about voter ID, about finding ways to compromise with Republicans and whether that is an area, given the numbers that we have seen, that Democrats might be willing to compromise. And she had as you might expect, a winding, nonsensical answer.
Voter ID, one of those compromises that you'd support? I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Breaking news, no way to photocopy a driver's license or a passport or an ID card if you live in a rural community, because they don't have a Kinko's or an Office Max. Apparently, those are the only 2 places on planet Earth where you can make a copy. And I'm assuming we're talking about, in this scenario, obviously mail-in balloting. It's not like you could physically show an ID when you go to your poll to cast your vote in person. Couldn't ask people to do that. So if they've got to make a copy of their photo ID to go along with their mail-in ballot, what if they have mailboxes in rural communities?
Yeah,
or if they have to wait on the Pony Express to come by to grab their mail also.
Yeah, you got to. Telegraph is still, the best communication method out there in the sticks, apparently.
Yeah, good to know that nobody, especially black people, that's the subtext there, in rural communities, have access to a computer or a scanner or a copying machine. What is it, 1971? Now, your church doesn't have a copy machine.
None of them have phones either, right?
To phones. There's a fun little app on my phone called Genius Scan that's free. You literally snap a picture of anything, hit upload, and it's created as a PDF.
She has her assistant do that for her. She has no idea what you're talking about.
Probably not. More of exactly what you would expect from Kamala Harris. Chuck Schumer got in the action, too. We'll play that for you later. First guest coming up next, Brice Wiggins.
From the Seabrook.com.
Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you on this Monday morning, the 9th of February. Thanks for joining us. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross, happy to be joined by our first guest this morning. Representing Jackson County in District 52, it is Senator Brice Wiggins. He is chair of Senate Judiciary A. Mr. Chairman, good morning.
Hey, Richard. Good morning. How are y'all?
Doing well. Good to be with you. Like the Saints gear this morning. Hopeful that maybe a year from now we're talking about the Saints on this morning as opposed to the Seahawks or the Patriots.
That's right. We're Tyler Shuck is. I think he's ingrained now, and so we're hoping that would be the case. But I had to represent the Gulf South. You know that the Seattle. That Seattle and New England, not my two favorite teams. I'll say that.
I understand that. I certainly get it. I think there are a lot of people that felt that way about a lot of parts of the Super Bowl.
The Saints will be. I'm sorry. The Saints will be back. You can bet. Just hang in there. I'm telling you when. But let me say this: Drew Brees got into the Hall of Fame, and let me say if nobody's ever read his book, you need to read his biography, his autobiography. He talks about faith and God and what has led him to where he was. He doesn't really do it on the media, but in his book, he talks about how that is important to him and got him where he was. So I think it's great. So him going in the Hall of Fame, I was holding my hat on.
Yeah, the video that was captured where Dan Fouts showed up on his doorstep to congratulate him on being inducted into the Hall of Fame was really cool stuff. You could tell that it was an emotional moment, even though he knew it likely was coming at some point. When that actually happens and he finds out, and to have another Hall of Famer greet him and say, hey, you're part of the club now, it's a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, and let me say this, Richard, that at that time, look, that was after Katrina when Drew came, and yes, we know him on a first name basis. And I'm telling you, the Gulf South was devastated, and it's more than a football player. He changed this area, and he changed that franchise. And when you want to talk about Hall of Famers, he's a Hall of Famer in life and leadership and people. And, it just changed the Gulf South, and Katrina was devastated or had devastated us at the time. So it was special.
Certainly was. Let's transition to what's happening in the Capitol this week and over the next few weeks. Over a month into the session, couple of months remaining. I think there are a lot of people that are intrigued by the bill that you've introduced that would make civics mandatory in high schools for graduating seniors, but also would be available for kids from 8th grade all the way through, or maybe 9th grade all the way through the end of high school. What's the impetus behind this one?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And you're right. It has gained a lot of traction, a lot of support. I introduced it last year. The Senate passed it unanimously and sent it to the House. Our friends in the House, for whatever reason, they chose not to take it up, but that was last year. The impetus, honestly, for me personally, is the way I've put it, Richard, is you can go on social media and you can see people's comments and you realize they don't understand civics or how government works. And when I say government, I'm talking about our three branches of government. You know, people think that the executive branch makes the laws. They don't. Congress, the legislature makes the laws. The judiciary doesn't make the laws. And then when you go around and talk to people, you recognize that. And we have to be informed citizens. That is what this is: government for the people, by the people, of the people. And, but that requires us to be informed citizens. And honestly, I think it's gotten away in the schools for whatever reason. It's not being taught. 8th grade, I heard some people say, well, we've got government. Well, civics is different from government. Government is, the state, who the state flag is and who the governor is. This is about checks and balances. This is about separation of powers. This is about federalism, which I think, by the way, people don't understand. If you know the 10th Amendment, which most people don't know the 10th Amendment, things are reserved to the states. People think the answer is to go to the federal government and get something done. That is not how our founders set it up. It's all about the federal government is basically a government of last resort. It's left with the people in the states. And that is not being taught. And, I've also read, you asked the impetus, I've read quite a number of books on the top. Of course, I'm a lawyer. And so I think constitutional law is an avocation of mine, if you will, but it also applies in my practice and what I do. So that's really the impetus behind it. And other states have passed it. So I think Utah passed it, a version of it. I think Indiana's working on it. So, we want to be on the front end of the states that are doing it. And there's a lot of bills. There's probably 20 states where it's been introduced.
I don't know if it was a local requirement or it was something that was required at the state level, but I feel like when I was in high school, in ninth grade, I had 2 semester classes with the same teacher, Mr. Sharp, God bless his soul. He taught Mississippi studies and then he taught government. And the one semester was all about government in the state of Mississippi and learning all 82 counties and the county seats and geographically where everything is and how it all ties together. And then government was based on federal government and the 3 branches and the roles of each and how they were intertwined. Has it been a requirement in the past that was rescinded, or would that have just been a local requirement?
Specifically, I don't know. I think it was left up to the teachers, or certainly to the districts. To the districts, yeah. And it got shuffled out. If you look at the last line of my bill, it says the name of the courses shall be changed to governments and civics instruction. So it requires civics as being different from government. And yes, to your point, I had that too. I had those things, but as we know, so much in the schools, things get pushed to the side and people don't think that it's important. And if you don't think it's important, if you look, most of our elections nowadays, for better or for worse, whichever you want to say, are decided in primaries. If you look in the primary and the turnout, well, not even just in the primaries, in the general. If it's not a presidential election, you have maybe 15% of the people turning out. That is not what our founders envisioned. And let me say, they're across the world in other democracies that are coming about. You got people voting at 90%. And I think when you study civics, you understand the beauty of what our founders did. And let me say this, got to remember, it was during the Enlightenment period, and we had kings all across the world. And what George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams did was they stood up to authority and king and created a republic like we've never seen. It was transformative, and it was cutting edge. And we take it for granted. I think that's what happened is we take it for granted that this is the way it's always been. And it is not. I was watching, just to give you a story, I was watching one of the history documentaries on, I can't remember what it was, but, we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the country. Yep. And the historian, I think it's the lady from, she's worked at the George Washington Center and all that. She said, look, in the history of the world, there's been very few, if any, democracies that have surpassed 300 years. And we're at 250. We are at a critical time. And I think, and here's the thing, our Constitution and our republic democracy is the longest lasting and the best. And we can continue, but we as citizens have to participate in it, and it's on us. And at the end of the day, if you read the Declaration of Independence and you read the Constitution and how those things came about, this was the people involving themselves and taking responsibility and saying, you know what, we want to govern ourselves. And I think on a big level, we've taken it for granted.
Visiting with Senator Brice Wiggins. He represents District 52. That's Jackson County. He is the chair of the Senate Judiciary A Committee. We're going to continue our conversation with him. Nearly 2,000 bills between the House and the Senate were filed during this session. About 1,500 of them have been killed. Did Senator Wiggins have a bill that was killed that he thinks was a mistake. We'll ask him that and more about what he expects to happen this week in Jackson when we come back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. We're back right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
It's a holy place, my daddy showed me. Back before.
Good being with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Senator Brice Wiggins is my guest. He represents District 52 on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That's Jackson County. He's chair of Senate Jud A. And, we look at this massive number of bills that come up every year. So many of them die, never see the light of day, never get out of committee. Most of the bills that are submitted come from the area of expertise or the committee assignment from the person that puts them forth. And most of your bills seem legalese heavy. You mentioned a second ago you're a lawyer. That's kind of the area that you work on the judiciary side. I noticed that several, or at least a couple, were tied to the state grand jury. We hear about local grand juries regularly. Two or three of the bills that you brought that were related to the state grand jury were killed in committee. Is that something that's concerning? What was kind of the story behind those? What reform or changes do we need at the state grand jury level in your mind?
Richard, you've done, and your team have done your homework. I'm impressed. That is, that's good.
There are a few tools that we have to keep up with what's going on.
And to pick that out. And you're right. When you're chairman, you have a lot of, that's for lack of a better term, your area of expertise. If you're AET, that means government stuff. If you're Judiciary B, that's more the criminal law. Now, I was a prosecutor for almost a decade. The grand jury here, people don't know this, but yes, we have a statewide grand jury system that is there by the Constitution. And I was semi-familiar with it when I was an assistant DA. What happened was, and see, goes back to my bill, the civics bill. You have the Constitution, but then you have the laws that implement the constitutional provision. And we have a law that did that. And what that law did was said it can only be used in drug cases and really that was it. And it's never been used, or I shouldn't say never. It's not used anymore. But more importantly, it had a repealer on it. And what it said was, it went away. So actually we have a constitutional provision, but we don't have a law that implements that. And so having talked with the Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, talked with Commissioner Sean Tyndall, what made sense for the statewide grand jury is in cases of public corruption and Shad White, obviously, public corruption, and then police shootings, because what you have is, or alleged police shootings, because what you have is you have the local agency or the local person investigating that. And that gets very dicey right now. The AG has to come in and it all gets dicey. So what you actually have to do is you have to have the implementation law. And then because it's a constitutional amendment or a constitutional provision, it has to go on the ballot for the voters to vote on it. And, I've talked to Senator Angela Hill the last couple of years. She's the Constitutional Committee chairwoman. She hadn't brought it out. I know there's you get into a little bit of, is that a lot of power by the state? That's why it's drafted very narrowly. And actually, to your point, I killed my own bill because I knew that Senator Hill was not bringing it up. Okay. And that's what happens. It is my hope that next year that could actually be done, because I think we need a statewide grand jury. And here's the difference, Richard. A grand jury is pulled from your own county. So in Jackson County, the DA pulls from Jackson County. A statewide grand jury is pulled from all over the state, and it's handled in, I guess in that case, it'd be Jackson, but you have that. And that's why you could get in a case of of corruption, I'll just use my own county. If that's going on in Jackson County, I hope it never does, you can pull jurors from other parts of the state and give you that perspective instead of having people that all know that elected official.
I feel like we're heavy on constitutional conversation for a Monday morning first thing, and we've only got a minute left, but let me throw this at you quickly as kind of a wrapping up point. Constitutionally, we're supposed to have a ballot initiative process. We don't have that right now. It's something that your colleague Jeremy England has talked a lot about. We're going to get anywhere on that this year?
I think so. I think it'll pass the Senate. Jeremy has worked diligently on that. The people have a expectation. Let me say, it is not a constitutional right. By the way, the Mississippi Constitution does not guarantee that. What it says is the legislature decides. We believe that the people should have that, and so that's why Jeremy's doing it. And I am proud that Jackson County is on the forefront of the Mississippi and U.S. constitutions. I mean, you can't go wrong.
Is that one of those shall versus will language points?
Yes,
okay.
It is. And shall versus, it's may. So shall
versus may. Okay.
Yes. It's us lawyers, And by the way, I wanted to say, that commercial that the caller was talking about, the Maloney, it's not good. So I'm sorry. Don't choose your attorney based on that commercial.
Senator Brice Wiggins, thanks for your time this morning. Safe travels, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate you having me.
8 o'clock hour on the way. We're back after this.
Your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
8 o'clock hour, it is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Appreciate you being with us for at least spending part of the start of your day, the start of your week, with us on Super Talk Mississippi. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard. We got lots to get to in this 8 o'clock hour, including an extended conversation this morning with JT Mitchell from the SuperTalk news team. He'll come in a little bit earlier than normal to talk about an interview that he had this weekend with the U.S. Secretary of Labor. She was in Jackson for a meeting with the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation to talk about labor needs as part of her 50 states tour. And JT will give us the rundown on that, plus all the other stories that the SuperTalk Mississippi news team is watching this weekend. So certainly we look forward to that. MRC is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Community Bank would love the opportunity to visit with you about all of your financial needs. You can find them online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Just want to put this on your radar. The Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation and the Dixie National Rodeo go hand in hand. And on Thursday, you can catch middays with Gerard Gibbert at the Trade Mart in Jackson. He'll team up with the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation to talk about growing the future of our state's agriculture at the Sale of Champions. Find out how the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation helps students get to college through this annual event. That's coming up on Thursday morning, 10 o'clock middays with Gerard Gibbert on the road at the Trade Mart in Jackson. I mentioned, we talked about Kamala Harris and her opposition because of the lack of rural people's ability to photocopy a government ID. And so she is not for voter ID laws. Neither is Chuck Schumer. I know you are surprised by this. Chuck Schumer, over the course of the weekend in an interview, was asked about what he thought about the voter ID laws. Remember, CNN ran the story last week, and it was showing that there was a lot of support for voter ID in the United States, including over 3/4 of black registered voters in the United States. It was a study that was put forth by Chuck Schumer, that was put forth by Pew Research. Chuck Schumer, though, went to the old calling card: if you don't like it and you can't beat it and the numbers don't favor you, you cry racism. And more often than not, the way that a Democrat like Chuck Schumer cries racism is by referring to Jim Crow laws. Here was Chuck Schumer.
71% of Democrats like this idea, so why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0, and I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
Although there might be one problem with the idea that not one Democrat in the Senate will vote for it. Because Democratic Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania might just be joining the Republicans, coming out in favor of requiring an ID to vote in every election across the country. He said, quote, "I do not believe that it's unreasonable to show an ID to vote." Now, the question, because John Fetterman says a lot of things I think a lot of Republicans agree with. There are a lot of people that have said, John Fetterman speaks in common sense terms. And it surprised a lot of people. The only question is, when it comes down to actually voting for it, will Fetterman follow through with what he said? There have been a couple of instances where he has voted with Republicans, and it has hurt Senate Democrats. More times than not, though, when it comes down to actually voting, he aligns with Democrats in what he says yay or nay on. So that will be interesting to see how it plays out. But Chuck Schumer, this is a guy that on this particular day in Mississippi, where 95% of the state is going to be bathed in sunshine with a canopy of blue, very few clouds, crystal clear day, absolutely gorgeous, Chuck Schumer is a guy that could be standing right next to you, looking at the blue sky and arguing with you that no, it's not blue, it's green, or it's yellow, or it's red, or it's black. Pick the color, I don't care, but it's not blue, despite the fact that you can look at it with your own two eyes and go, clearly, it is a blue sky. It does not matter that it actually is a blue sky. It does not matter that you could assemble 100 people that all would look up and go, yeah, it's a blue sky. He would go, no, it's not a blue sky. And in this case, it does not matter that the people that he refers to specifically, black voters, especially in the South, in the 60s, 3 out of 4 black voters in this research poll said, yes, we think you should have to show an ID. And his rationale is asinine. Well, what if a woman gets married and has to change her last name and her ID doesn't match with what the voter roll says? Oh, you mean like when you go and you get on an airplane and you have to buy your ticket in advance and you have to list your name exactly for the purchase of your ticket as it matches with your photo ID? What an irresponsible thing that TSA and the airlines ask us to do. How could you possibly be held responsible for making sure that your ID matches your name as it's listed other places? It's mind-boggling the hoops that Democrats can make themselves jump through to prove a point that people do not agree with. We've talked a lot about redistricting. And do you remember back in October when Ole Miss hosted the TPUSA event on campus? We talked about this on the air. I think I even played the clip for you. There was the guy that was kind of funny in his line of questioning with J.D. Vance. And the gist of the question was, this was related to the National Guard being deployed into American cities to help clean up safety. And the gist of the question was, I like the idea of what you're doing, but are you concerned by establishing this precedent that in the future it might be used detrimentally to Republicans by Democrats? And I'm paraphrasing here, but J.D. Vance's response was, they're already going to use it. If you can dream it up, they're willing to do it. Here's your example in the redistricting conversation. Remember, Texas was vilified for looking at changing its districts. California said, oh, well, we're going to do that, and then it turned into a ballot initiative. Well, Virginia actually has done it. The new governor of the state of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, who has not let much grass grow under her since taking office, just signed a bill that will most likely make 10 of the 11 congressional districts in the state of Virginia blue seats. A state that less than a month ago had a Republican governor will now have 1 out of 11 congressional seats held by a Republican after the Democrats gerrymandered the districts. But when Republicans talk about doing it, oh, it's terrible. It's racist. It's bigoted. You are disenfranchising minority voters. When Democrats do it, it's almost like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Democrats take advantage when they have power. Republicans talk about being the party of ideas.
From the Venable Glass.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. I'm not saying Schumer is the dumbest person in the world, but I am saying he sure better hope the dumbest person in the world doesn't die. Thomas in Greenwood says, J.D. Vance going to be a sad fellow when Massey beats him in the 2028 primary. I'll take that bet, Thomas. Sure will. This is a post from J.D. Vance on X yesterday. Said this is really something. New England's 6 states vote about 40% Republican and have literally 0 Republican representatives in Congress. He's talking about Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. So the population of those 6 states combined votes at about a 40% Republican, 40% clip Republican, and have 0 Republican congressmen out of their footprint. Told you JT Mitchell was going to join us a little earlier than normal today. JT working a little overtime over the weekend. He is the news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. Good morning, my friend.
Hey, Richard. What's up, man? How are you?
Good to see you. You taking the Super Bowl last night?
I did. I watched every minute of it. And typically I go to bed early because I wake up early. So last night was the first Super Bowl in a few years that I made it through the whole way. And I know that
I'm going to say last night is probably one of the Super Bowls out of the last few years that you could have gone to bed early for.
You're right. Well, last year as well. Last year was a blowout. But I know the halftime is longer during the Super Bowl. But the reason that I do like the NFL a little bit more sometimes in college is because they stay true to how long the game should be. College goes on forever. NFL gets it in and gets it done.
And yet last night at 9:30, we were still watching the clock tick off.
The Super Bowl is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's different.
The halftime show is way longer.
Which halftime show did you watch?
I watched the Bad Bunny halftime show.
Did you sample the TPUSA All-American halftime show as well?
I hope nobody will be mad at me, but I did not.
Okay.
No, I wasn't going to change it. I was interested. You know, I've covered a story in Puerto Rico before, freelance-wise, and so I wanted to watch Bad Bunny. I'm not going to get on here and rail on it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of just indifferent. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting.
The era of great Super Bowl halftime shows, iconic Super Bowl halftime shows, in my opinion, unless something changes dramatically, is a bygone era. There is no Michael Jackson. There is no Prince. We have not had a full-on country halftime show since 1994. Some people point to Shania Twain and her appearance in 2003. But, I mean, generally, I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and, a few years ago, I guess it was 2021, when they had, all the old school rappers like Snoop Dogg and Eminem.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
fun.
that because I'm a rap fan. And so I thought it was fine. I thought The Weeknd a couple years ago, I enjoyed it. The thing is, Richard, that we talk about there's no Michael Jackson or no Prince left. Even if you're not in it for the music, for me personally, watching everything that goes into it, just the visuals, it is entertaining. Last night, did you watch it? Let me ask you that first. Did you watch the halftime show?
I did. In fact, we had two TVs going, and we had both of them up at the same time, and we kind of kept the volume low on the TPUSA while Bad Bunny was performing, and then switched. So I tried to, there are a bunch of kids running around. I didn't watch it super closely. I thought visually it was very pleasing.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have known more than like one word that was said the entire time.
Well, I guess you got to get back to Spanish 300.
So you're telling me you understood everything that he said?
I did not understand every word, but I did take Spanish through 300 in college, and so I understood some of it at least. Okay. Talking about the visuals, though, one part that I couldn't help but laugh at was, did you see the trees?
Yeah, the trees that were people.
But they didn't dance at all. The reason they were in the trees, at least from what I understand, is so you wouldn't have to have two people jump on each side and carry each tree out. They put people in the tree, they walked on the field, they stood still for the most part, and then they left.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Or if they installed a chair inside those trees.
I don't know. It had to be so hot.
All right. Over the course of the weekend, the United States Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez DeRemer, was in Mississippi, and you had a chance to sit down with her. Let's start out with a clip from the conversation. You want to set this up?
Lance can go ahead. Yes, she was here. She is on a 50-state tour, visiting really with an industry in each state that is huge. So when she came to Mississippi, agriculture was obviously the focus. She met with Farm Bureau, the Mississippi Sweet Potato Council, Catfish Farmers of America. Everybody was represented from timber to rice. And I was fortunate to be able to get an exclusive interview with the Secretary of Labor after the fact.
And JT Mitchell asked Secretary Chavez DeRemer about what she heard from all of the stakeholders right here in Mississippi. Can we fire it from there, Lance?
I'm having a hard time with the audio here. Let me do it another way. Hold on.
Here, I got it right here. I got it
loaded up.
Go.
Well, whether it was our sweet potato farmers, rice farmers, catfish, cattle, Mississippi is so diverse. We even talked to nurserymen. We've talked to forestry that was sitting at that table, a real diverse group who cares about the ag industry as a whole. What they're caring about is how do they get products to the consumer at a lower rate so that people have it whenever they want. Americans want food when they want it. They want to go into the grocery stores. They want to go to their farmers markets. They want to have the production right there, and they want it at a low cost. Labor is one of those. How do we get the labor force ready to go? So a couple of the things that I focus on are how do we focus on Americans? How do we get them into the ag industry? We talked about 4-H. We talked about FFA. How do we entice young people to have pride in growing America's food? That's one issue. And we talk about that across all industries, apprenticeship programs, the trades, if you're talking about construction or anything else, manufacturing, that's been important on my tour as well. But here we were focused on the ag industry. What happens in the Department of Labor is that I work with the Department. That's right.
So, interesting clip there from Lori Chavez DeRemer, the U.S. Secretary of Labor. It's really interesting how intertwined the Department of Labor and the Department of Agriculture are right now and some of the goals that they are pursuing.
And she actually mentioned that. She said that a lot of people were kind of like, why is Secretary Rollins not here, considering Secretary Brooke Rollins is the head of agriculture? Well, she explained it that, the Department of Labor does a lot that influences agriculture. I mean, the Department of Labor is working with the USDA, with the Department of Homeland Security to come up with these initiatives, or at least expand them, to get the youth who may be interested in agriculture more involved, to come up with apprenticeship programs. She said they've created 300,000 apprenticeship programs across the country, across all industries, in the first 11 months. I thought that was an interesting tidbit because as someone who began as an intern in media and worked my way to where I am now, a lot of times it starts when you get your foot in the door. And she also mentioned that they're working to expand some of these visa programs that allow farmers and ranchers to bring in foreign workers during seasonal labor shortages. I found the whole conversation fascinating. It was about 11 minutes long. The entire interview is at supertalk.fm. It is on SuperTalk Mississippi's YouTube page. Really anywhere on your laptop or your phone, you can find it. But it was a great conversation. And she said that the reception from Mississippi's ag industry felt like it was heartfelt. I mean, every major sector was represented, and she said that it felt worthwhile. We were state number 46. They will wrap up the 50-state America at Work listening tour later this month. So that was U.S. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer.
Yeah, and I listened yesterday afternoon and thought you did a great job with the interview. She mentioned in passing the H-2A visa program, and I think that's one that is of huge significance to farmers in Mississippi. It's the program that allows U.S. employers to bring foreign nationals for temporary or seasonal agricultural work when domestic workers are unavailable. That has been an onerous program for farmers to deal with because of the amount of red tape and, frankly, the targeting that has happened of some specific farmers to try and almost as a gotcha from people that don't necessarily want farmers, air quotes, taking jobs from people that are Mississippians.
That's right. And one thing that, I kind of learned through your interview with Christy Nome is that these departments have so much under them. The Department of Labor has 26 offices, agencies, and bureaus.
More coming up with JT Mitchell. We'll look at some of the news headlines from the weekend and what we are locked in on as it is another deadline week in the Mississippi legislature. More MRC after this.
From the Seabrook. Start your day right.
Good morning,
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross, streaming online at supertalk.fm. Don't forget about our friends at Belk Ford on Highway 6 West in Oxford. If you had a total loss on a vehicle during the recent winter storm, whether you live in Lafayette County or another part of North Mississippi, maybe a tree fell on your vehicle or some other problem happened, total loss is declared by your insurance company, then you qualify for employee pricing from Belk Ford. Thousands and thousands of dollars off the sticker price. They'll work with you on the best financing rates that you'll find anywhere. Good selection on the lot right now, whether you're looking for an F-150, an F-250, an Expedition. They've also got a great selection of previously owned cars. Obviously, those don't qualify for employee pricing. That's on new vehicles. But talk to them, check them out, talk to them about your situation. I think you'll be glad that you did. I continue to do business with Belk Ford. I've been doing that since 1999. That would be 27 years now that I've been a customer at Belk Ford, and I keep going back, and there is a reason for that, because there's a better way at Belk. BelkFord.net, Highway 6 West in Oxford. JT Mitchell joining me in studio. He is the news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. You talked last week about a big deadline that was in place, and that was referral of general bills from committee to the floors. What have we got this week in terms of a deadline?
You know, at this point, Richard, we're at the point in the session where you can go across the calendar and pretty much have a deadline every week.
Okay.
But the big deadline is on Thursday. Now, this is the deadline for original floor action on general bills and constitutional amendments in their originating chamber. In layman's terms, that means if a House bill has cleared committee, that House bill must have action on the entire floor, the same in the Senate. We had the deadline last Tuesday, which killed off, 1,500 plus bills for those to clear committee. The ones that have cleared committee now must go to the floor if they haven't done so already.
Even if it's not for full debate, some action has to be taken to recognize that it is a bill that is at least on the docket, and then you can shelve it for a little while longer.
Very good point. It is a caveat that as long as it gets put on the calendar and pretty much if it gets read inside the chamber in terms of the bill title gets brought up, you don't have to vote yay or nay at that point. It just has to have some sort of action to stay alive.
Okay.
And there are some big ones. I know that we had a lot killed off last week, but every year thousands of bills are filed. I'm watching a lot. You asked...
Well, and Brice Wiggins explained to us that part of that's a process. There were bills that he brought to his committee, Judiciary, this year that he killed himself.
Right.
Because he knew there wasn't support or it wasn't the right time or whatever, but he wanted them to be in the pipeline and he wanted them to be there to be some recognition and some conversation perhaps for a year or two down the line.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you, in the situation of Senator Wiggins, if you know a bill isn't going to make it, just go ahead and nix it. Work on it over the offseason, get it done next year. Or if you know that a similar bill has been filed by somebody else and that one seems to have a little more steam behind it, just go ahead and kill it. So that's what happens. We have seen a lot of hot topic issues already get voted on in their originating chambers. Teacher pay raises, portability, PERS advancements, at least funding, that is, mobile sports betting, and we've been covering all of that. Some stuff, and you asked him about this one that we're watching is, of course, the ballot initiative. We are waiting to see what that Senate resolution, how it goes, because historically it's kind of been the House pushing the ballot initiative, but now the Senate one seems to be the one that everybody's eyes are on. There's some election stuff, there's some more education stuff, believe it or not. There's one that would revise the attendance law. That's been a big issue for Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, is how do we reduce the chronic absenteeism rate? So many kids are missing more than 10% of the school year for whatever reason.
School year 180 days, so that's missing more than 18 days within a school calendar year.
That's right, and we have one of the highest rates in the nation.
Yeah. By the way, one of the things worth noting, because the counties that were affected were declared a state of emergency as tied to the winter storm, those days, as I understand it, will not have to be made up, or at least it can be, whether it's the Department of Education or the governor or whomever has to ultimately make that call. Those are not days that the 2 weeks that a lot of kids in North Mississippi missed because of damage are not going to be days that will have to be made up.
That's how I understand it as well. There's also a bill out there that would give schools more days off without makeup, just in the case of another winter storm Fern. There are bills about funding or giving relief funding to the counties impacted. So there's a
what do you make, JT, of this seeming brewing debate? The Senate unanimously passed $20 million of state funds that would go directly to MEMA to help with disaster relief, and the House seems to have, at least it sounds like the opinion exists, that they would rather that money go directly to the cities and counties as opposed to being administered by FEMA.
Yeah, and that's what Representative Lee Yancey talked about on your program last week, was that, the Senate has passed $20 million to go to MEMA for winter storm relief. But he made it sound like his chamber is of the belief that instead of sending that money to MEMA, that money should go to the individual counties and cities. He made it sound like pretty much the House is on the same page there. It reminds me of the federal government, where they're saying responsibility needs to be more on the states rather than us. It feels like a similar argument, maybe a parallel argument, that rather the responsibility of the money going to MEMA, it should go to the counties and cities because they know how to use it, would probably be the argument. They know their communities better than anyone else, would probably be the argument. They know exactly which roads were impacted, where the money needs to go, would probably be the argument. And I have not...
If the money goes directly to MEMA, would that mean that it gets spent at least somewhat at the discretion of the governor as he sees fit?
I would assume so. It is a very short bill, but I would assume so. I mean, the bill is, I think, a page long in terms of the Senate side, and I have not seen text of a House bill yet for winter storm relief. Have you?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
But that's where we're at, and, at the end of the day, there are a lot of people hurting out there. We are 2 weeks post the storm, and a lot of people are still hurting. And at this point, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but I think they just want some relief. And, we're finally beginning to get out of the response stage. It is still ongoing, don't get me wrong. Now we can kind of gear toward the recovery stage. Money is going to come in from FEMA, and then you'll need some money stateside, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I wonder, and I don't know if these funds could be allocated in this way. So as I understand it, when FEMA issues money to a state for disaster recovery, 75% of the amount of money that is issued is paid for by the federal government. 12.5% comes from the state's coffers, and then the local municipalities that receive money are on the hook for another 12.5%. So this nearly $40 million that the federal government allocated, and maybe it's going to be more when it's all said and done, might this $20 million offset the 12.5% that the local communities have to pony up for?
And that is a fantastic question. Because if sending the money directly to the counties and cities, which are already hurting, saves them having to pay up front, as what you're talking about, that may be worthwhile. That may be what they're for. But if it has to go through MEMA and they have to pay part, I don't work for MEMA. I don't necessarily know at this point what the process would look like. But that's a great point, Richard.
Yeah. And the rationale behind local communities having to pay part of it is so that the requests aren't outlandish.
Right.
Right? I mean, there's a skin in the game element to this that says, so you don't say, hey, we need $20 million. We're like, well, okay. You're on the hook for 1/8 of that, and we'll work to get the other 7/8 of it. And they're like, whoa, no.
We actually meant 10 million.
Actually,
it was a typo.
It's actually not 20. It's actually 13 million that we really need. But, so I think there's some wisdom in there, but I just wonder if that might be one way to allocate that money. A couple of other stories we'll hit on with JT when we wrap things up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
From the Venable Glass.
Good morning.
Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Is this a reference to a cartoon video that made its way around the interwebs? No. Not going there this morning, Lance?
No, I didn't know you were talking to me, man.
I just heard the bump music, and I knew that it started with the words, in the time of chimpanzees, I was a monkey, and I just wasn't sure if there was a subliminal meaning of some sort that we needed to be picking up on. I don't think JT was amused by my characterization there. He's got heavy news on the brain right now, including a clarification.
That's right. What you got? Clarification here. Mississippi State Watch, which is a fantastic service. They help keep us in line when it comes to the state capitol, and that's what they're doing right here. I said that I defined earlier original floor action, meaning that it just had to be brought up and read. False. I am wrong. Not the first time, not the last time, but I always correct myself. These bills have to be voted on Thursday, but they can be reconsidered afterward.
Yeah. A clarification that I got as well. So the disaster recovery money that was passed in the Senate is dedicated for state match for the 25% requirement. So federal government covers 25%, or covers 75%. 25% goes to the state. The way the law is written in Mississippi right now, 12.5% falls at the feet of the state, 12.5% falls for the local communities. Senator Scott Delano told me that they did not speak to the local match component because they don't know exactly what FEMA ultimately is going to do, but the Senate wanted to show its commitment to take the $20 million and allocate it now. That also prevents money from being spent or used for other purposes between now and the end of the session or the final determination from FEMA. So this is public assistance money. This is not individual assistance money. One of the things that you can remember that Christy Noem talked about with regard to some of the FEMA money, it is split between public and private assistance, or public assistance and individual assistance. So there's a lot of details that go into how some of these dollars post-storm, post-disaster are going to be allocated, and we'll try to keep you up to date with those as best we can. It looks like there is a new police chief that is headed to Jackson. Looks, maybe one hurdle left to clear for that to be official?
That's right. Got to get confirmed by the city council. In essence, the city council is the Senate. When you look at these federal appointments, the city council in Jackson must approve, I believe it's Rochelle Brackney. I will get her name correct, but she has a heck of a resume. Now, Mayor John Horn, he put together a task force that got public input, held listening sessions in every ward about what they wanted out, what the citizens wanted out of a police chief. The listening session I went to, Richard, there was probably 4 people that were concerned about public trust. How are you going to police if we don't trust you? We need somebody we can trust, is what I heard time and time again. Now, Brackney, she lives and breathes that. She actually has a PhD and taught a class about how you cannot police unless you know your community and they know you. I find that fascinating. She was a commander with the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, big city right there, Bureau of Police. She was also the chief at George Washington University, where I lived for a summer, felt safe. She was the chief there while I lived there. And she was also the chief of Charlottesville, Virginia. And a search firm that the city used has been credited with successful hires in Boston and Denver and other cities. And so I have a very good feeling the city council is probably going to vote 6-1 on her being confirmed.
Okay. Well, we will look forward to that. It was a big night for a bunch of Mississippians. Charles Cross, former Mississippi State Bulldog, and Laurel Tornado. Is that right? The Laurel Tornadoes?
That's right.
I think that's right.
He did not let up a sack all night.
Yeah. Derek Hall from Gulfport, Cam Akers from Clinton, Jamie Sharif from Terry and Mississippi Gulf Coast, Jared Ivey from Ole Miss, Jaron Reed from East Mississippi, Chris Paul Jr. from Ole Miss, A.J. Finley from Ole Miss. Super Bowl rings for all of those guys. Combination of active roster, practice squad, injured reserve, all of those things, but all of them part of the Seahawks win in one way or another.
That's
pretty
right.
Cool.
I mean, I was thinking about it last night when they were interviewing these guys, just what they had to be feeling with that confetti coming down to win a game that you have been thinking about since you were probably in elementary school.
Yeah. JT, a little longer than normal. Sorry we asked you to work more on this Monday morning, but appreciate, as always, you coming by.
Of course, Richard. I appreciate you. And thanks, Lance.
Thank you, Lance.
Oh, always, guys.
We hope you have a wonderful Monday. We'll be back with you in about 21 hours. Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks for helping or hanging with us as we get the day and the week started. Back at it tomorrow. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Have a great Monday.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.